Greetings. My name is Ben Murray. Looking forward to the session today. So today, talking top spend optimization priorities in 2024. We know it's planning season, budget season, getting ready for 2024. So in today's environment, orgs across the globe are continually seeking innovative ways to enhance their financial strategies, ensure sustained growth as we approach 2024. Optimization takes center stage, offering finance leaders an opportunity to fine tune their financial management approaches for optimal efficiency and, of course, competitiveness. So, welcome everyone. In the lineup today, some great speakers. We've got Levine, CFO at ChurnZero, Kelly Hicks, Global Controller at Airbase, and Naga Subramanya, Director of Finance and Chief of Staff at Airmeet. Welcome, guys.
Hi.
Great to have you here. So let's dive in. And Naga, I think first question to you, and for those folks listening, if you have any questions, throw those in Q&A. I'll watch that as we go through here and open it up to Q&A at the end. So please post your comments, questions there. But what have been your leading spend categories in 2023? Really curious. And what are your insights or expectations for the top spend categories in 2024?
Thanks, Ben. Happy to be here. In terms of our spend categories, like we are a very complex product, right? We're doing this on Airmeet, happy for that to happen, but it's a very complex product. So direct cost, let's say like our AWS, our streaming costs, those are costs that are extremely high for us because infrastructure is a big spend category and it also impacts my gross margin. So that is something that's like always like something that we scrutinize on a regular basis, right? So like direct cost is a spend category that might be unique for us. But apart from that, we had like a ton of bloat in like GTM tools, right? Like everything from we had whatever tools you say people had it, but when the tools are being purchased, the businesses have the power, as I would say. And then when the tools are being renewed, and then like I think the balance of power kind of swings back to us because the finance folks ask questions around how's the utilization, how's the ROI, what was the thesis that you purchased these tools with, and did it actually pan out that way? And so for us, so like I said, direct cost and sales and marketing tools, and we've also either like cut down tools like to the extent that they're not being used or they're not being implemented the way we expected, or wherever we're continuing, we've drastically reduced our ACVs, like data enrichment and stuff like that, where they charge us on credits. We've also tightened processes around who gets to ask for like customer enrichment, what's the process, and how can we manage that better. So that's what our kind of focus areas have been, like as we've been through this year, and that's going to continue in the coming year as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Aaron, Kelly, any thoughts here on those top spend categories? Because we know for SaaS and tech companies, there are definitely some that are at the top of the list. Do you see these categories changing, or maybe just the focus of where we're putting our attention?
I can jump in.
Yeah, Kelly.
Yeah, at Airbase, we have kind of taken a look at how customers are spending money on our platform, and we have kind of seen what Naga was saying a bit. We've seen customer at a company level, kind of year over year, kind of individual companies spend decreasing a little bit. We've seen the bulk of that decrease be in their marketing spend, which we've actually seen decrease about 29% kind of year over year for comparative periods. And then we've seen that kind of engineering spend stay pretty flat. We're seeing customers want to continue to invest in that product for when things do turn around, but kind of cutting costs where they can, like Naga was mentioning, like focusing on those tools and really, are we getting ROI on that today? Or is that something maybe we wait to invest in until we see kind of things turn back around?
Makes sense. Yeah, definitely. And hopefully if we're adjusting marketing spend down, let's make sure we double check the revenue forecast as well.
Yep.
But Aaron, any thoughts on just, spend categories at ChurnZero, just what you're seeing in the market?
Yeah, no, I agree with what the rest have said. In SaaS businesses, the number one spend category is people generally, right? It's headcount. So this year, and I think, going into 24, there's going to be continued focus on, people spend, and comp and ben, I think will be, also kind of increased focus on comp for folks. But yeah, other than that, I think you guys hit on the head. The other thing I'll throw in there is real estate. Real estate costs are, typically a big spend category for folks. So I know with COVID and work from home and all that, everyone's got different, real estate strategies, but that's kind of the other spend category that has been in focus lately.
Oh yeah, definitely a couple years of focus on real estate, good or bad. But yeah, interesting, and I think probably different companies, different focus. But like you said, Aaron, for SaaS companies, tech companies, wages, taxes, benefits, always at that top of that spend category area on our SaaS P&L. So, Aaron, we'll follow up here. Given that spend optimization is a continual process, how do you measure success for spend optimization? I mean, are we just looking at budget variance analysis? How do we actually really hone in on if we're actually achieving spend optimization?
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of step back and just look at total cash flows, like have a really good handle on cash flows of the business. So the metric there is free cash flow, right? So have a really good handle on what's coming in the door, what's going out the door, and related metrics around there like DSOs, days payable, outstanding. So that's kind of just broad, kind of top down look at cash flows. And I think you drill down into there, like you said, budget versus actual is a CFO. That's a big part of what we do. So I think what did you plan on spending? What did you actually spend? That's a big driver of decisions, and it helps you make good expense and spending decisions. Another thing I say is expenses by category is something we look at closely, right? So you can benchmark like financial statement at the financial statement line item level. So R&D, sales, marketing, G&A, and kind of pull some third-party benchmarks and see how you stack up. And then also spend by category. So some of these categories that we talked about, let's look at spend by the real estate bucket, the marketing bucket, the people spend bucket. And again, you can do some benchmarking there. So, if you sort of start at the top, go, keep going down. I think those are sort of good, top down metrics. And then, once you really kind of begin to peel back the layers, I think things like looking at spend by vendor, right? So that's kind of the very bottom. You can look at like big vendor spend. You can use tools like Spendflo, which we do, to look at license utilization, right? So what are you using? What are you not using? And you can help kind of calculate cost savings, right? And calculate the percentage that you're saving, at the vendor level. And then the last thing I'll say, as the CFO of ChurnZero, customer acquisition cost and customer churn are top of mind for me and near and dear to my heart. So while it's not a direct spend category, customer churn is a huge part of the financial model these days. So having a really good handle on net revenue retention, gross revenue retention, and logo retention is like key for any SaaS business.
Yeah, that's great. I love that, Aaron. You threw out a ton there, but yeah, some of those good old fashioned metrics, free cash flow, but then looking at CAC, retention. Kelly or Naga, any thoughts there? Anything that you're looking at as well, or anything in addition as far as like the KPIs and how you track spend optimization?
Kelly, you want to go? I can go next.
I'll go. Yeah, I can jump in. I think, we look at a lot of what Aaron's looking at. I would say the one thing I'd add on to that's maybe a little bit different is we're also looking at kind of what we consider one of our North Star metrics is spend under management. So we use that internally. We use that for our customer spend as well as what they're kind of spending on our platform. And what we consider that is really like what % of that spend is going through our kind of controlled and customized workflow process versus things maybe going outside a process or didn't follow your procurement process, or maybe, somebody signed a contract out of cycle. So we're really trying to get that number up, 90+%. That's really going through those, customized processes. You're getting the controls and visibility across all the right stakeholders. So that's one of the areas that we're really focused on. And then also just as part of that process, we're looking at the SLAs and things like that around it to really, make sure everything's going through the process, but also getting through there in, the right amount of time and not being overly, burdensome and slowing down the business. We're wanting that right balance.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate that insight. Naga, any thoughts there as well?
Yep. So Ben, maybe I'll touch upon the topic that Aaron and Kelly didn't, right? I think really they've covered like most of it. But you spoke about actuals versus forecast, right? So that's one piece that we continue to do. Like we have like rolling forecast as well as like an annual plan that we kind of benchmark again. So my favorite thing to do is just look at, how are we just doing if we just don't change anything, right? Like how are my rolling forecasts looking like? Is the business without any intervention, is it moving in the right direction or not? And then depending on the variances that come either on forecast or even forecast versus actuals, we try to dive into, where are those changes coming in from? And more often than not, it's on the revenue side and less on the cost side. So for example, we cut down, like Kelly was saying, we also cut down our marketing budgets drastically, but our high intent leads continue to remain positive. Our pipeline generation continues to remain at like, last 3 month, 6 month averages. So we're just seeing like, where is the business, like what's the momentum that the business inherently has, and that how much of it can we carry forward, and then what is that stage at which we'll now start making investments where we are comfortable for things to accelerate.
Yeah, love that. Appreciate that insight. And Kelly, I'll throw this next question over to you. And Aaron mentioned one of those top spend, and I like to think investment categories is people in SaaS and tech companies. So how can finance leaders optimize workforce spending, while maintaining talent quality and culture?
Yeah. I think that's a really important balance to talk about as well. As a finance leader, really for any tool that I'm investing in, that's kind of, it's kind of company wide facing and not just for, me and my team. I always like to think about that like end user experience. And I want something that's really, easy for employees to kind of use and adopt, and isn't, this overly cumbersome. They have to go to 10 different tools to go through our process. I just want something that's really like user friendly and really kind of self-explanatory on how to use. And I think that's really important kind of today, as well as we've talked about, maybe more remote or hybrid situations where you can't, come to somebody's desk and ask how to do something or what the process is to follow. Just really having that really intuitive tool that just allows people to do their job and kind of move on and get things done quickly. But then it also really, from a finance perspective, gives us those controls and visibility and kind of that robust system on the back end. So I really think that when you're looking at new tools, that kind of balance on that kind of front end experience for the users, and then your kind of back end robust kind of control and visibility that we might want on the finance side.
Yeah, I love that. And Kelly, do you think that remote work or that hybrid environment, does that change how finance leaders approach spend optimization, or is it kind of the same? Is there any change there if we have that type of workforce?
Yeah. I think there's definitely a change there. I think we collaborate differently. I think we might spend on different tools to allow us to collaborate versus, the whatever M&Ms in this, break room or something. Like we're having to collaborate different. We're having to engage differently internally with our customers, all of that. So I do think it really makes us change how we think through where we're spending money and, how we're getting that value.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense. Naga, Aaron, any thoughts there on workforce balance and talent and managing that?
I think Kelly did a good job. I agree. The M&M bowl in the office is, that spend has shifted, right? Now we're spending on different things, right? We actually just rolled out a virtual book club, right? We're sending out $10 Starbucks gift cards for people to have coffee and do their book club. So you're right, that shift to remote has definitely kind of changed some of those old spend habits. One other thing I'll add in this topic is with compensation, right? Compensation, it's so much focus these days. I think it's really important to have employees understand the compensation that they're receiving and the cost to the company. So one of the things we did this year was we rolled out a total compensation review in conjunction with our comp broker, and it's a 1-page kind of easy to digest statement. But your comp is more than just your base and your bonus, right? There's all sorts of benefits that are available to employees. All sorts of taxes incurred by the company. So that's one thing that we've rolled out this year, is to kind of lay that out for employees, and they can kind of see and digest everything that's available to them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Naga, any last thoughts there on workforce?
Yep. I love the point that Aaron made, right? Aaron, who are you working with for your compensation? Who's your comp broker? That sounds like an amazing exercise that you stood.
Yeah, Sequoia.
Sequoia,
Our
okay.
benefits broker. Yep.
Got it. Got it. So something similar that we undertook as well, when more on the more during the time when we were hiring people, was like compensation benchmarking, right? Because there are two elements to any spend, right? The place where you enter, and then place where it will grow to. And especially for people spend, it can grow really fast. So we made sure that for all the people we are hiring, especially like directors and VP and above, we are able to benchmark and figure out what percentile of the overall market we want to be for the fixed, for the benefits, for the ESOP, and made sure that we stuck around to our metrics and explain to candidates why we want to be at that range. So that was a process that we found to be extremely helpful, and also getting buy-in from folks on like the kind of incentives that we're giving them, whether it's like the account executives, the customer success folks, and really tweak those incentives to make sure that they're aligned to whatever the company's priorities are for that quarter or for that year are.
Yeah, and definitely that makes a lot of sense, especially when we think about SaaS P&L and the people investment that we're also investing in those compensation benchmarks, and really understanding that, because that's such a core piece to our P&L. And Aaron, I'll throw the next question over to you. CFOs, right? We're constantly in that pursuit for efficiency, and optimizing vendor relationships, and then sometimes, right, we've got to negotiate as finance leaders. Can you share any insights into how finance leaders can strengthen vendor partnerships and drive mutual value versus just trying to beat on that vendor and just bring the price down?
Yeah. And I agree. That's kind of a natural muscle, I think, that's easy to flex, right? Just kind of browbeating, vendors into cost reductions. But I think you really got to think about vendor relationships like other, personal relationships, or relationships with coworkers, other business relationships, right? It's a personal relationship. I think, just like your spouse or whatever, you have to be open and honest with your vendors and communicate kind of what you're trying to accomplish. I think that can lead to, right, additional discounts, additional, programs or offers that they may have available. So I think that open communication is super, super important. And also, I think vendors, just like, people, right? I think you want to work with and support with, good customers, right? So I think, even if you don't get that last, dime of, cost savings, I think sometimes, you're kind of buying something for that extra money, right? I think, they vendors may look to support you, better. And I think it's kind of a mutual, beneficial relationship there. The other thing I'll say is that, you do need to, sometimes have a good guy and bad guy in terms of discussions and negotiations. So, Spendflo is great for that, and then these other vendors, right? You can kind of use them as the bad guy to come in and help you, negotiate down if that's helpful. So, I always try to like to keep the relationship intact, bring others in if needed. But I think that's how I approach it.
Yeah, I love that, because sometimes, right, it's easier with a third party on our behalf, like a Spendflo. And then also, right, sometimes as finance leaders, we like to keep the cards close to our chest. But sometimes, in those negotiations, if we're trying to, hey, here's what we're trying to achieve, and both parties come together, let them also contribute to that conversation and that solution. That sometimes makes it a win-win. So we'll open it up to Q&A here in a second. So if anyone has questions, post those in Q&A, and I'll open up this final question to anyone who'd like to take it here. But how do you align the organization with the spend optimization priorities mentioned earlier, right? We've got to get executive buy-in, department leader buy-in, budget process is so critical. So I'll open that up. So how do you get that collaboration and that buy-in to optimization? Kelly, any thoughts there? Or any?
Yeah, I mean, one of our core values at Airbase is like control your own destiny. So I think we as an organization have always kind of had this spend conscious approach about, making every dollar, be a really valuable investment. So I feel pretty lucky that that's just something I came into as a finance person, already having that culture here. I know that's something, many organizations are now being, kind of forced to think about. But I really think just kind of setting that tone at the top, explaining why, these discussions are important, why negotiating is important, what, we're trying to do with that for a business, and how that impacts our bottom line, I think is really important. So, Aaron kind of mentioned that like honesty and openness with, vendors. I think that's equally important, within an organization, as you're running your business.
Yeah, great. Yeah, definitely. Aaron, any thoughts there before we open it up to Q&A?
If you ask me,
I
Ben.
agree with that.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think it just comes from the top, as Kelly said. I think it's really important to establish, your strategy for the upcoming year and a long-term vision, and then sort of, communicate that down and prioritize, investments around, that overall strategy. So it's just about kind of communicating it and, actually, and then wrapping a budget, right? It kind of all rolls into your budget and your planning process. So, you have to take that strategy and just disseminate it throughout the organization, and it actually kind of comes to life in a budget, which you run the company off of, and use that as a tool to work with business leaders.
Yeah, I love that. And we have a Q&A coming in here from Jason, and the question, I'll open it up to thoughts here, but what emerging fintech trends are crucial for spend optimization in 2024? So thoughts there, fintech trends that could help with spend optimization.
I'll answer that, Ben.
Sure.
Maybe in a convoluted way, but in some way, like one of the fintech trends that's like coming up now is like buy now pay later for SaaS, right? So let's say you have like an annual contract that is due, but your vendor is not giving you an annual contract. They're not willing to negotiate a monthly payment or whatever it is. So there are providers like Tranche and I think Capchase and a bunch of other providers who can convert the annual contract into a monthly contract. So while it might not be really spend optimization, but we all know that our US T-bills are giving us like 5.5% right now. So whatever cash flows that we can defer, we can still make some money off of that. And the same thing for our customers as well, right? So where customers want payment flexibility, we cannot give it. We route them through like BNPL for SaaS providers, in order to optimize the cash flow of our customers and also make sure that we don't lose deals just on payment terms, which we as finance leaders tend to be quite difficult to negotiate with on.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, we know debt financing is so hot in the SaaS space, but also now financing the purchase of the SaaS spend, for monthly to annual contracts, getting that cash flow faster, so definitely that landscape is changing. And then have another question here. I think we have maybe a minute here left to answer this, but how do you envision the role of AI evolving into the CFO's toolkit for optimizing spend in 24? And what would potential challenges we should be prepared to address? So do we see any AI influence hitting us in the finance org in 2024 to help with our process? Kelly, maybe you're smiling.
Yeah, definitely. I think, AI is something, it's not like it just came about this year. We've been using it for a while. There's been machine learning, there's been OCR, we're like adding in this generative AI piece. So I think it's something a lot of us are already using. I think we'll probably continue to invest in tools that also have that on their roadmap. I do think we need to be careful with it though. There's not like we've all seen examples where it gave a wrong answer, or it didn't pop out something, or maybe it wasn't telling the whole story. So I think we have to like critically think about how we adopt it. But I think we will adopt it. I think we just need to be careful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really going to be interesting how AI, kind of pushes its way or infiltrates the finance and accounting org. Yeah, I think that's still maybe I don't want to say a later adopter, but maybe taking a little bit more time to kind of get into the CFO tech stack. Naga, Aaron, any thoughts there before we wrap up today?
I agree with that. I'm a big proponent of AI. I think it's here to stay. But I do think we're kind of right in the middle of the the hype curve around it right now. So I'm a little less, I'm a little more skeptical about 2024 impacts of AI. I think it's like Kelly said, it's kind of been around and there is innovation now, but I think it's going to take some more years to really kind of penetrate the CFO tech stack.
Yeah, I think so. And one last question, Doug. I'll throw this over to you, and then we have to wrap up. We're almost out of time here. But how can finance leaders align spend optimization with sustainability goals and ethics? And what's the impact on long-term profitability? Boy, that's a tough one. So spend optimization also with sustainability and ethics.
So in terms of spend optimization, right? Like I don't think there are a lot of vendors who are really talking about, this is our carbon footprint, or this is how much energy that we're using, or you can use us and get some carbon credits and stuff like that. I've been hearing about certain, like specific AI data center workload that I don't remember the name exactly, but there are some data centers that are now coming up around oil rigs, and they're saying that they're more they're tailored for like AI workloads, and they're more efficient. But apart from that, there's nothing really that's come up, right? I know like certain other providers also talk about, let's say, like by using this tool you're able to offset certain carbon credits or whatever, but there's nothing, it's not really mainstream, right? At least I haven't really come across any tools or any actionable things around like sustainability and like SaaS tool usage. Aaron, Kelly, I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, it's not an area that I've focused on. Agree with that.
I think it's coming, but not there yet. But really appreciate the time today, and we'll have closing thoughts here. So and we'll go around the room here. Maybe Kelly, start with you, and just throw this out on any final thoughts, or what's top of mind for you as you approach 2024.
I think, just thinking for my team specifically, really, I think, and it's probably broader across the org as well, but I think we're all kind of just like making sure we're using all of our resources efficiently. So are we investing in the right tool versus people, just really thinking about how we're allocating that and investing in those tools today to, handle the, expected growth, but really being like smart about that and kind of investing those dollars in the best way possible.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Aaron, you what's top of mind for 2024? Any final thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think 2024 probably looks, pretty similar to 2023 in terms of, spend and financial profile of businesses. I think, the days of spending at all costs, where we were in 2021 and before that are behind us for now. We'll get back there at some point, but I think it's going to be, so all cycles. So it's going to take some time. So.
Yeah, definitely. And let's take it home. Any final thoughts here?
Yeah, like Aaron and Kelly said, right? Just about making sure we continue to focus on ROI, continue to focus on what's really the reason for the spend. I'm most likely going to do like a zero-based budgeting for like most of the team for most of our spend categories. So I think that's the only way to do it, because otherwise we're just like, okay, we're renewing it because we've always been renewing it, right? We're spending this because we've always been spending. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, well, that's it. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.